Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the Loss Prevention News Network. With us today is Dan Faketty, Vice President, Asset Protection at Bilo Holdings and Chair of the NRF's Education Committee, and Bob Hanson, Loss Prevention Coordinator and Associate Professor at Northern Michigan University, and also a committee member of the NRF's Education Committee representing academia. Dan Faketty has over 20 years of being a senior leader in the retail loss prevention industry in 3 different organizations. And one of his priorities over the course of those years, something that I can personally attest to, has been his absolute commitment to your continuing education. Whether it's in a formal setting or online or even on-the-job training, his focus on developing people and ensuring they have the education and knowledge necessary to excel and deliver results has been unwavering. Couple that with his long-term association and relationship with Northern Michigan University, and we have Bob Hanson, an associate professor that manages one of the most successful loss prevention higher education programs in North America. Bob has been supporting this industry and the NRF LP conference for many years, and he's one of the most passionately driven educators I've ever met and worked with. Gentlemen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Gus.
Dan, can you open this up, so to speak, and talk about the Education Committee and some of the things that you're doing and some of the objectives that you have?
It's a good question, Gus. The Education Committee right now for NRF is comprised of 8 senior leaders in the industry. We meet through conference calls. We actually meet at this particular conference as well and off-site. What we do is we plan an agenda, and typically the agenda really surrounds professional development, what we can do in order to help the entire industry get to a higher level. And education, by the way, is at all different levels. It could be at a certificate level. It could be at a college level. We take a look at all of those. And again, the main goal of the Education Committee is really just to promote education throughout the entire industry. And oftentimes we do that as well through surveys. And those surveys could be benchmark surveys, which really drill down, and once you've got the bench, then we can go back and we can continue to measure any progress that we've made in the industry. And we did a benchmark survey with Northern Michigan University, at least through the NRF a while back. And then there's flash surveys that mean a lot to individual people that are in stores, where we can literally take a look at what our industry is doing at any one given time and then communicate that information out to the field.
And how does this rebranding of the NRF from loss prevention to NRF Protect, I mean, how is that going to impact that educational model and what the stuff that you're pushing out for the young folks to learn?
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is we've really got to get a feel from the industry as a whole on how they feel about NRF Protect. And by that I mean I can envision really quick here doing some very quick flash surveys and then identifying through the industry exactly what they feel, and then more importantly, how they can use NRF Protect really to build their brands within each one of their organizations. Example, Protect is everything, right? I mean, it's broad-based. We protect infrastructure, we protect data security, we protect our facilities, we protect a lot of things. So I think for the most part we're right on, but I'd like to hear from the industry on what they think.
Do you think it will involve an element of IT security, cyber security, and data breaches and such?
Oh, without question. If you take a look at the exposure and the exposure that businesses have today, data security is on the absolute forefront. And we're literally making a dramatic change in the industry. We've gone a long ways from catching shoplifters to organized retail crime. Now as you sit in the C-suite and you're taking a look around, trust me when I tell you, The business is extremely concerned about issues like data security, data integrity. In fact, even in my own environment, I don't think a week goes by that I'm not sitting one-on-one with the Chief Information Officer, and we're developing strategies and plans in order to protect our business.
So that's got to be a key ingredient going forward for the younger folks in the industry, is giving them the tools, the information, and the knowledge to be able to assume that role later on in their career.
Absolutely, and that's all about professional development, right?
Absolutely.
How do you put people in positions where they can succeed?
Well, Bob, let's talk about Northern Michigan University. Talk to us. Give us some history and background on it. I mean, you lead one of the best efforts in the United States, which a lot of people agree with, I think.
Well, we got started in this when some of my criminal justice students returned to campus, and they said, I never thought I'd end up in loss prevention. This is a great job. I'm looking for some entry-level employees. What do you think? And so my favorite story is about a young lady that went to work for, in those days, it was Marshall Fields. And she came from a little town called Ontonagon, which is a wide spot in the road in the Upper Peninsula, maybe 500 people population, first person in her family to go to college. And she needed a few credits, so we got an internship started at the Old Orchard store in the Old Orchard Mall outside of Chicago. And in the course of that experience for her, she, within about 5 weeks, was running leads on a $100,000 internal theft case. Now, if she would have gone to work in law enforcement, let's say for the Michigan State Police, widely respected, she would have been chasing taillights for 10 years before she could apply to maybe get a job as a detective. And the last I heard from her is, of course, Marshall Field's been sold and Macy's now and all that, but she was being recruited by the U.S. Postal Inspectors to become a postal inspector because of the relations that she's made. But I also was taking classes working with Dan, and I'd bring classes down to the big stores and let them see what's involved in it. And people said, I wish I had a class like that, because look what's changed in the years that you've been involved in the industry. How it's changed in 20 and 30 years. There's just incredible change. And you talk to people and they'll say, well, got a job in law enforcement because I was waiting to get a job. I was going to go to the police academy. And then it's a good job. I started getting promoted. I really liked it. And then life gets in the way.
Well, they get bit by the retail bug.
And they start raising a family, and they can't go to class Monday and Wednesday from 1 to 2:40. So that's where we started, working partners with the NRF. We started in 2005. We called together a group of professionals, leaders in the industry, and said, what can we do for this? And there were people, Dan was there, and Stan Welch, and Rod Holm, and all these names, Tina Sellers, all these names that people know. And they helped us develop what courses should be taught.
For an online program.
For an online program, because we were dealing with professionals that they could not get away. But it had to be relevant. It had to represent some core competencies that should be expected from anybody in the industry. And then that group identified content experts who came to the university to help develop the courses. So these courses are not some academics' view. These are academically sound courses based on best practice.
Right.
So while people like Tina Sellers and Rod Holm are on campus, I grab them, take them to a class. Students want to ask questions. Well, we're going back, but we're going to the conference room. 10 people followed them back. And then we started to develop the traditional students. Now, our average student in our program now, we got about 50 majors in loss prevention. 70% of those are non-traditional students, and they are average about 35 years of age, and they're all working responsible jobs, and they've gone on. People like Jody Murphy at the Gap, been promoted twice while she was in the program because Gap values education. And Laura Zednalik with Kohl's, and John Schuler with Target, and Demarius Cologne with Limited Brands, Leroy Hegman at Coinstar. I mean, the list goes on. And they have been able they needed the credential. They already had the basic skills, but they needed a credential. And that credential has to represent relevant, respected.
Well, and it's becoming more and more important, the four-year degree. I mean, there's a lot of retailers and companies out there that will not consider you for promotion without it.
Well, I remember, Gus, when at the NRF that was in Atlanta, and we did a workshop, and you and Bill Titus crashed it. Can you imagine you're doing a workshop on professional development, and in walks Gus Downing with Bill Titus? You know,
Well,
there was a pucker factor. That the windows kind of moved a little.
well, we hope it helped.
Well, and again, what you did, Gus, there is you stood up and you told those people, if you don't have a degree, you have no future in this industry. And that's a hard pill to swallow because they had the skills. But you can't imagine going to any business in the world today and going to finance or going to marketing where a baccalaureate degree wasn't a minimum requirement. And we did the survey and we found that 53% of the executives surveyed knew of someone, at least one person who had been denied a promotion because they didn't have a degree.
Oh, I know.
And how many
dozens,
people,
hundreds.
good quality
that haven't
people that you work with,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
and there's not a question they couldn't do it, but it's just a corporate standard.
And you work with them while they're working. They can go online. They can personalize the scheduling, so to speak, and accomplish that goal.
Right, and we have very liberal transfer policy. I mean, like Jody Murphy, she transferred in almost 90 credits. She had, and Shannon Stillwell, she had a lot of credits from 3 or 4 different institutions.
Any credit for on-the-job training, for job knowledge? I mean, because a lot of the folks are going to look at it and go, I've got a year or two of college behind me. I've got 2 more years of formal education. It's going to take me 8 years to get that. I mean, how do you overcome that hurdle, that mental perception?
Well, that's where you have to make a judgment on return on education. Okay, so in the academic world, there's a great deal of suspicion about giving credit for work experience.
Oh, yeah.
So let's say you're the security director for a grain elevator in the middle of Iowa, and you've worked 20 years there. And then you take a guy like him, in his 20 years experience, we're going to try to equate that, and that creates a problem. What we've found is that the people leverage their experience to advance themselves through the program because it takes them less time. They understand the vocabulary and things like that. But in the academic world, there's a great deal of suspicion about that, and unscrupulous people have parlayed that giveaway kind of thing, and then their degree has no value.
Right, right.
So if you do all that work and then, oh, well, why don't you just pay your check and get your degree? Pay a fee and get the degree.
There you
and
go.
there are people that do that, and that's not us.
So I also understand you have an internship program at the university.
Yes, we do, and NRF partners have been very helpful with that. Next year, I'm hoping to bring 3 or 4 qualified students to the NRF, and so they could be mentored by the actual individuals. But we had a young man, Lance Mackey, who went to work for a Sears Holding Company. He got a internship. That was a year ago. He's already had 2 promotions, and he's gone from an intern to a multi-store person.
There you
and
go.
He's just done an outstanding job. And what happens is they come back from that internship, they're sold on a program.
So anyone interested in wanting to find out more, just go to the website and it'll direct them there.
NMU.edu. I'm on LinkedIn. Be very happy to talk with people. We really believe in the service aspect of this. We talk to individuals. We also have a lot. We are placing probably 6 criminal justice students in jobs for every one that goes into law enforcement. So we've got highly qualified, motivated, problem-solving people that are looking for opportunity in this field.
Lastly, do either one of you ever see the Department of Labor ever recognizing our industry as a specific category other than merely putting us in the protective service workers category?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is.
The Department of Labor, I don't even want to go there. I'd probably defer that one to you. I don't know. I just don't know.
Bob, you're the academic.
Yeah.
You know what it
Well,
means.
yeah, and I don't account, I'm accountable to nobody, so
There you go.
he's got to get everything approved. The university tells me, we don't know who you are. The president will disavow any knowledge. But, you know, that's one of the privileges that we have of being able to express an opinion. And here's what my theme on that. Number one, it's in order, you look up in any dictionary, any English dictionary, what professional is, and that includes a higher education component. And I think it's going to be a tough sell until a baccalaureate degree in any related field is an absolute minimum requirement for being hired. And that's when you earn the respect of the people. The people here that come to these conferences, they know each other. That's the most remarkable thing about loss prevention, how closely knit the community is. And you talk to people and say, well, you better keep your personal integrity has to be intact. And you're nice to your employees because you might be working for them in 2 months.
There you go.
So, and that's unique in when I work with law enforcement and corrections. That's a very unique aspect of what you do. So, working together, I think that there is an opportunity for that, and there is not enough knowledge in the academic community about the true value and the true contribution that loss prevention makes to American business. And that the really good jobs that are here, and not only just good jobs, but it's challenging, it's interesting, and these guys are puzzle solvers. So you have to have, and that's why they turn to loss prevention. Once you have the trust of senior management, they turn to loss prevention.
Well, thanks, gentlemen.
Yep.
I appreciate it. That's it for this episode, and hopefully it's motivated a few of you to make that first step and go back and finish your education. Because, ladies and gentlemen, one day someone is going to say to you, moving up, and they won't let you do it without the degree. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.